Well, hello and welcome everyone. We're excited to have you join us today for the webinar on concrete optimization and ecosystem in the cloud with Sysdyne and Giatec. We have two fantastic speakers for you today. First, let me introduce Sarah McGuire, Assistant Vice President of Business Development at Giatec. Sarah's been with Giatec since 2015. Next, we have Jason Campbell, who's been with Sysdyne for over 2 years, focusing on sales operations. Both bring extensive knowledge and experience in the concrete ready-mix industry. So they'll be walking you through some slides. We'll leave time at the end of the webinar for questions. If you have any questions, please enter them into the chat. And we'll make sure to send this recording to all of you after the presentation. So please join me in welcoming Sarah and Jason. And Jason, we'll let you kick things off.
Excellent. Thank you, Jamie. Excited to be here today. This is really, for lack of a better term, this is really cool. What we're doing with Giatec, and so I'm going to kind of start out and kind of give you a little background on Sysdyne, and then we'll hand this off to Sarah. She'll kind of get into Giatec and some of the things that they're doing, and then we'll kind of talk about how we're working together, and then answer some questions.
Sounds perfect.
So as for Sysdyne, we've had a really good recent history. So we've had tremendous growth, and that growth has been built off a strategy that we put in place several years ago. You're going to hear a lot about cloud-based solutions today, cloud infrastructure. Sysdyne was actually the first to put its dispatch system, which we call ConcreteGo, into the cloud. This is way back in 2008. So as companies get more and more into the cloud and they start bringing some of their development into the cloud, Sysdyne actually has enjoyed a pretty big head start here. So what that means is we've gone through the growing pains. We've had our head down planning for the future of our industry for really all of our solutions. Another example would be, if the first generation iPad came out around 2010, well, 3 years later, Strato, which is our GPS truck tracking and management solution, we had an electronic ticket on a tablet. So we have done a lot of investment into modern technology, and all these past investments are really now starting to have an effect. And what that means is what we are doing is we're redefining this industry today. So, our solutions are built for purpose. They're built specifically for this industry, and this industry is demanding. And so as I talk to people outside the industry, I try to explain what the day-to-day is like in the ready-mix concrete industry. I try to make them understand, our product is truly perishable. You can't just bring it back and put it on the shelf if something goes wrong. Our customers are managing multiple tasks. Demands are changing by the hour. The environment that we deal in with the weather and traffic patterns that we can't control. We never have enough capacity, that be human capacity, trucking capacity, plant capacity. And then you add all that up, and then we're in an extremely competitive day-to-day environment. And so really, you guys, the ready-mix producers, you live in this pressure cooker. And so you've got to be able to respond with speed, with accuracy, with confidence. Okay. These growing demands have increased our dependency on technology. So we have to act smarter and faster. And so to do that, outdated technology that needs extensive, heavy IT maintenance and support is not going to allow you to keep up in this industry. It's demanding more, while at the same time we're becoming more constrained. So that leads us to our platform. ConcreteGo is more than a dispatch system. It's actually a platform. All our products are built in-house on as a cloud-native solution. So these solutions they're comprehensive, they're connected. We want to have a single platform that manages all of your business processes. The infrastructure that we're built on gives this full spectrum of advantages that come with this development. So you're going to get security, scalability, resiliency. a global reach, and then really well-run resource efficiency. Okay, and at the same time, we have a strategy, and that strategy includes an API-first strategy. So we want our customers to have a best-in-class experience. So what we do is we provide a powerful foundation for your solutions. Customers and partners can seamlessly connect systems, applications, and data. And what this flexibility does is it empowers you to tailor your system to your specific needs. And we really believe in enhancing collaboration, automating these workflows, and extending this functionality. So the bottom line is, we're built to improve your day-to-day now, and we're also built to have you set up for the future. So let's talk about ConcreteGo specifically. It's a dispatch system within this platform and allows dispatchers to create, track, modify orders through a really easy to use, intuitive interface. You should be able to set your dispatch system up with no server rooms, no heavy IT network, or no local updates. When you add plants, you shouldn't need a bunch of IT support. With our dispatch system built in the cloud the way it is, it's built to grow as your demands grow. So specific to today's webinar, ConcreteGo's web-based solution, which is easy to access, it's a perfect example of how we work with companies like Giatec and take your operation really to the next level. Our industry creates a tremendous amount of data. So what are we going to do with it? Right. So we as an industry should be able to utilize this data to improve our operations, to improve the quality of our product, to make your customers more loyal, give you a competitive advantage. So if we're going to use the data we create every day to accomplish this, the data better be accurate and it better be easy to access. And I think we'll show you today that it is. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to show you a little bit about Giatec.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. As you're handing over the presentation mode to me, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. And Jason, thanks for that great introduction. As Jason has mentioned, when you have the opportunity to bring all of this data together, then it starts to expand the reality of what we can actually do with that data. Just a very quick overview of Giatec for anyone that's new to our company, and this is kind of a fresh introduction. Giatec, we are new to the space of being directly involved in ready-mix operations. However, we're not new to the concrete industry. The company was formed back in 2010. A lot of us in here at Giatec are really focused on the concrete science and how we can improve quality from beginning to end. While there were a lot of other technologies that we brought before 2015 was when we launched our sensors. It was also when I joined the company. And since then, it's really taken us on a different path in this space of making hardware, connecting IoT solutions and the new age technology that we have, like Jason's example from the iPad before, and just putting it into some of the existing systems or existing methodologies that we already do have in the industry and making them more scalable and adaptable. This led us in 2019 to actually creating who we call Roxi at Giatec. So we have Smart Rock, which is our sensor that goes into the concrete, gives you strength on your phone into the cloud, allows you to see your strength from anywhere as you're curing. Roxi was formed kind of from the concept of Smart Rock, and originally she was invented as a means of helping further reinforce the data that people were getting from our solutions. So Roxi, just to clarify, is not an actual, she's not a product. She is our AI that lives in a variety of our solutions to actually pick up outliers, generate insights for people to actually take action on. And that led us into a deeper space of working with concrete optimization and really touching the concrete design and leveraging AI in this space, as we are so inundated with data coming in. That is where we ended up with SmartMix, the system that we're going to be talking about today, that has a direct integration with Sysdyne and can be theoretically turned on if you're a Sysdyne customer today. It could literally be connected today because of how quick and easy cloud-based systems are when they speak to each other. Now, when we started working with Roxi, we were learning from her we were learning from her insights. the impact of overdesign in this industry. And we decided to take her to another step. A few years ago, we went on this huge hunt for data, mostly here in North America, but more prominently expanding into the European markets, as they are a little bit more ahead of us in terms of material availability, testing methodologies that they use, et cetera. And we actually expanded the database that Roxi learns on by mining data from over 75 million cubic meters of concrete. That includes 300,000 unique mixes, 2,000 raw materials, different test methods. You know, in Europe, they do a lot of slump testing with a hammer, very different than the way that we do it here. And we built this huge database to see what we could learn from all of these different materials, concrete mixtures, et cetera, from all over. And one of the biggest challenges that then, as we were learning so much about what we could do with this from a concrete mix optimization and bettering the quality side of things, is we also came across a really big challenge in this industry when it touches the quality side of concrete management. And that's that this is an area within our industry where we are seeing labor shortages come slowly but surely. And I think in this industry, we talk a lot about the shortage that we're having of drivers and the importance of empowering them and making their jobs easier. But what we're not talking about is the fact that we have an aging out industry when it comes to technical managers, our experts that are working with our materials, our most expensive and valuable source in concrete management. And we're starting to see that they're becoming more and more responsible for more concrete. Now, when there's a driver that is not in a truck, it's very obvious that we're missing a driver that day and that we don't have enough drivers for the trucks that we have. But when this number of 520,000 continues to get 5 to 10% bigger and bigger year over year, it's something that isn't really noticed until we hit that breaking point. And this is where we believe that technology can really play a huge role in helping enable this workforce and being able to get more done with our days that is simply being asked of us right now. People in this role on the technical management side and in quality control are being asked to do a lot more with a lot less. And this is where we think technology and AI can actually play a big role. Unfortunately, one of the other challenges that we have in this industry is the availability of data. AI is a fantastic tool. We're learning so much from it. It really is going to revolutionize so many different industries all over the world. But without data, it is absolutely useless. And one of the, when Giatec came out a couple of years ago saying we built this massive database, these algorithms predict so many different ways of being qualitative with your concrete and making the right mix every time, what we found very quickly was that there were not a lot of systems that we could actually rely on to get this data and use it in a substantial way. So what we actually did was a year and a half ago, we sat down and we had one of our folks here at Giatec. She called every single NRMCA member and about 200 of you picked up and gave her the time of day to explain where your data was being stored today, what kind of systems you were using, just three quick questions that we asked to understand that better. And what we learned very quickly was that about 50% of the folks that we called said they do not store their data centrally today. They're not working with a true quality system where they're bringing everything in. A lot of people have created the most amazing spreadsheets I've ever seen in my life, but unfortunately they're not connected into anything. And when I talk about that aging out industry, unfortunately also a couple people in each company are the only people that know how those spreadsheets work, because they truly are fantastic, what I've seen. What we also learned was that another 25% were using some sort of system, but they were barely engaging with it. They weren't getting enough value out of it to motivate them to actually put in all the inputs of all their quality data into it. So about 75% of the industry working with extremely fragmented data and is pertinent to their quality control, and therefore we cannot add AI on top of this. Another challenge that we have always had is just getting that third-party data kind of coming into the system. And then on top of that, and where it relates to Sysdyne, is that out of those 2,000 ready mix companies, this is our estimate, not necessarily from that phone call, but from working with cloud-based partners, is that only about 10% of companies are really working with proper cloud-based systems today that have this ability to push and pull data everywhere and really bring it into one place. And so this is where Giatec has taken SmartMix to the next level. Before we even talk about AI, our biggest our biggest feat is actually getting into all of these different systems, getting the data from concrete in transit, getting the data from the batch plant, getting the data right from the job site and how it's curing, the slump test, the air test, everything, and matching it with that big data and putting it all into one platform so that people just have a go-to place to put all of their quality data at once and be able to make these adjustments and insights in real time. Then we add artificial on top of that, artificial intelligence on top of an existing efficient platform, and now we can just do so much more with it. But that's where I'm going to show you exactly how this works. So this is the Giatec SmartMix system. As a system itself, there's a lot of power in here. Roxi comes in on top, and then she takes it even to the next step further. What I'm showing right now is this is the ticket page where how we would integrate with Sysdyne is if you're already a user of them today, we simply connect your two systems together, and within a couple of hours, we're getting all of your live ticket data. We're getting all of your ticket data live in the system. Once we have that ticket data in there, any test samples, whether you are doing brake tests, slump tests, air test, if you're testing it, we want it in here. That all gets stored into this system here. And as an example, we see that we've got a specimen that's attached to a ticket, and we match everything in that way. We can queue up our different specimens and get everything kind of into one place that way. We prefer, if we can and if you have it, we prefer to customize this to get everything going in here as automated as possible to avoid as much manual entry as possible. When you are putting everything into one really nice system like this and AI is on top, we need you to spend more of your time in the analysis as opposed to manual entry and that sort of redundancy. However, if you do not have the abilities to get everything into the system automatically, which we would consult with you, this is also something where you can just add samples as you go and kind of treat it as your new system where you're entering that data. And ultimately, this brings us to a place where we can look at optimizations. Now, I'm not going to go heavily into this today, but for anyone that's interested in seeing more than what I'm going to showcase today, of course, you can feel free to reach out after because we could spend hours in the system playing around. But ultimately, the goal of bringing all of this stuff together is to actually not just give you the opportunity to optimize, but truly prioritizing those optimizations that are at your fingertips. This system takes into consideration what is at your mix design level, everything at your material level. We want all of the chemistry, grading, etc., that goes in the raw material level to bring you into this. We also can constrain things at the mix level to make sure that if you have a spec or a requirement that needs to be met, Roxi is not going to suggest any optimizations that take you out of that spec as long as we put that in here. So now we see this, that we get everything in the top cost savings. We see some of the newest opportunities. We also see that these are not necessarily just cutting. This is de-risking as well. So in a case like this, we have strength that is just shy of 4,000 and meeting that valid strength, but that is probably not enough for the safety factors that we want to consider for ACI. So that's something where Roxi's going to suggest you might actually want to add a little cement to this mix and design it a little bit differently. How Roxi works in this way is because she has analyzed these 300,000, now many more than that because that was in her research phase. Now, of course, she's got a lot more because she's had a chance to learn from all of those concrete mixtures from around the world over the years. She is making predictions on every single one of your mixes at every single plant level. Different plants, different performance, different materials often, even different costs. So she's doing that at the plant level and she's looking at that mix, and then she is popping out opportunities to you if the test data that you are getting in here validates her findings. If she does not have enough data to give you anything, she can still make that prediction. And what we have here is what we call potential optimizations. So in this case, Roxi is saying, you know, this mix is a 4,000, that I'm predicting that you're at about 4,800. That's actually probably not one that we would cut too much. Here's a 3,000 that's predicted to be 5,000 time and time again. If you go and chase up a couple more samples, if those samples validate what she believes is going to happen, she's going to pop something out. However, you as an expert might be able to sit behind your computer, see that this is very true. 3,000 over design, 3,000 design, 6,000 over design. It can also take into consideration your early age specs if you have them in there, so that wouldn't jump out either. And in this case, she would say, you might actually just look at this and say, you know what, Roxi, you're right, but I don't need to chase up 2 samples. I can confidently take out 20 pounds, give it a go and see what happens next, because that is some of that qualitative knowledge that we simply just can't put into a program. Now I'll go into the optimization. We can click on one of these optimizations, have a chance to review it. And Roxi, what she's always going to do is she's going to have a couple of different optimizations. One that's usually going to be a little bit more aggressive. 60 pounds is an extreme amount. Or one that is a little less aggressive and definitely does not touch your water to cement ratio. So in this case, let's look at the less aggressive one. We've got 20 pounds here. I can have a look at the proportions that it's going to change. I can see how that's going to fare on the prediction graph. And I can also see how that's going to change, my Tranchville chart, my Power 45 graph. However, if I don't have the proper gradings, which is very important, my workability factor just simply can't populate. So I'll show in a moment how Roxi is looking at different things at different places. And one of the things that we do with all of our customers when we first get them on board is we go through a session on what is Roxi looking for so that it doesn't feel like this empty black box that you just have to trust. And throughout our system, there are indicators as well. Now, I said before that this is populating because the test data was there to validate it. So here we have a look at the test data and we see what we're working with. The test data does get granular. It does show you exactly which lab, exactly which project, exactly even to the point of not just the lab, but the individual tester themselves. If that data exists, it would be in here for you to be able to see. Now here we're seeing an example of a validated by Roxi icon. Green right there at the bottom, what that I'm hovering over. This means that this is data that Roxi is actually using to provide you that optimization. Because here we look at all of the performance data that has come back on our system. But sometimes it's not good enough for Roxi to actually consider it into the optimizations. If she sees that your mix has deviated too far from the design that it was originally supposed to be, whether it was batched differently, delivered differently, water added on the job site, whatever the case might be, she often will reject that data, bring it to your attention and let you know why she's rejected that data. Doesn't help you in terms of the optimizations, but might help you in another part of your practice that you can then work on with the Sysdyne products. Ultimately, I have a look at this data. I'm looking at everything, it checks out. I want to take the less aggressive version. I can actually save that. Now here it's putting my mix out of yield a little bit, so I'll just go ahead and re-yield and save. And now that's a new mix that I can hit that push button, push it back to production. And because you're working with Sysdyne's full cloud solution, it goes through very seamlessly to the appropriate plant that it needs to at a plant by plant case. That is essentially how the system works fundamentally in terms of the optimizations. There are bigger scale optimizations that you can do at your own leisure, but if you're wanting to model different mixes to see how they perform with different materials, these are things that have to be done on your own accord and sought out. Only the ones that are truly valid, that can be really reinforced by the data that we're seeing, are the ones that are going to jump out at you and prioritize. Or if you don't have enough, Roxi will help you prioritize where you should be focusing your testing efforts. So ultimately, what does this look like if you're a ConcreteGo customer today? Well, Giatec and Sysdyne work together with Concrete Supply as our first kind of go live partner to really test out that integration between the two of us. And so because of the work that we've done with them, that means that any Sysdyne customer today on ConcreteGo, theoretically speaking, we can have you set up in the matter of an hour. However, by the time we go through uploading kind of your performance data or grabbing it from your existing QC system and matching all of that together, going through the materials, making sure the mixes have the right specs, usually onboarding takes a couple of weeks just to make sure that we go through the whole solution. But because we went through this work with Concrete Supply already, and because of how massive of a customer they are, dealing with such so many different data opportunities, it means that we've been able to iron out all of those kinks for the rest of our customers moving forward. So it really is just that easy. Within a day, we can have you to a point where you're seeing your ticket data and you're starting to play. Jason, do you want to add anything there?
No, I think that project was great, and really excited to see what they're going to be able to get out of this.
Perfect. Well, then we have another, so that's if you're a ConcreteGo customer today, but if you're listening to this wondering how do I become one, well, this is now a project that we're entering into with Maschmeyer Concrete out of Florida, where they're transitioning to ConcreteGo over the coming months. And because they've decided to work with Giatec SmartMix as their main quality control platform that provides these optimizations and this extra benefit, we're starting to get to work right now, because our ideal goal is that when you are switching over to a cloud dispatch system, it is the perfect time to switch your QC system right alongside of it. We ideally want those things to be flipped on the same day. And how we make sure that we do that is right now we're doing regular touch points with the whole team to make sure that the data is being all mapped out perfectly. And we get them set up in a sandbox. So even though they're not ready to go live today, we set up a test environment where Giatec system is connected into Sysdyne, and it allows our customer to actually go through all of the workflows in our system to make sure that when they do go live on that day, that they're fully comfortable with it. Their data is all programmed in there, and none of their workflows that impacts their day-to-day will be affected because we've worked through all of that in the months beforehand. And because of that partnership that we have with ConcreteGo working on this, this is something that we really insist on being a part of from the beginning to make sure that you have a seamless experience when we turn on. Jason, did anything you want to add?
Yeah. The only thing I would stress here is if we did this several years ago before we had the infrastructure built that both companies have, I would have been a little nervous, but given it just flows, and because we're on this modern architecture, some of the things like this can be done much quicker, much more efficient than they could have just a few years ago.
Yeah, it's a great point, because I think this is a challenge that we've been having. It's very scary to change so many systems at once. But the beautiful thing about the way that these technologies have been built now is that we have the opportunity to test them so many times in a protected environment, set everything up really well, make sure that that data is flowing super nicely. And because of the way that we've done that integration already, all of those kinks have already been worked out. So no more customers have to go through any of that pain. That's already been done at one time, and now it just applies to everyone else. Whereas before, when dealing with on-premise systems, you're having to keep up to date every single instance. Every time we plug into somebody's system, even though it's a system that we've plugged into before, it doesn't matter. It's still a system that needs to be maintained on its own accord and constantly watched. And if that breaks down, then we now have to look at it by a case-by-case basis. Whereas now with cloud-based and the way that things are operating here, there's no single instances. What we're looking at is the same software for everyone all the time. It's getting a lot more resources, making sure that it's very updated on a constant basis. And that's really creating a seamless experience for our customers. So Jason, you want to talk a little bit about why ConcreteGo is so great for us when it comes to pulling your data?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So Sarah showed you kind of what's possible using this power of AI for mix optimization. The data ultimately though comes from the tickets you produce. So where does Giatec get that ticket data? Well, that's where the cloud dispatch system comes in. We sort of want to be this one-stop shop for your mix design management. We want to enable you to not only be able to manage and report on your mixes and optimize them, but one example, you should be able to assign a value to it, assign a dollar figure, measure it. So from a day-to-day process, if you're managing your mixes, for example, in ConcreteGo, we're seamlessly sharing that mix data with Giatec, and then we're just letting Giatec do its thing, and showing you where your opportunities lie. At the end of the day, every ticket you produce, which is produced in our cloud dispatch system, should provide you a data point. And that data point should be easy to digest, easy to scale, and then ultimately it should become actionable. It should allow you to improve, allow you to measure your performance. And so we feel like this partnership is something that will really allow you to do that. And so, beyond the ConcreteGo platform, our tickets kind of give you a little tour around what you're looking at. That top picture is what mix design management looks like in ConcreteGo. And so we are communicating and integrated with Giatec SmartMix. And on the left, there is an example of iStrata. So that's where tickets are created also if you have our GPS system. But we're also the tickets are going straight to Giatec as well. So this integration is pretty powerful, and I'm really pretty excited to see what's coming out of it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think one of you've said it a couple of times, and I just want to reinforce like how important that ticket is, because really people have asked us about all of these integrations with all of these different systems at the end of the day, like a verifier, iStrata, where you're collecting all that data in transit on the go. Your in transit data is crucial for the quality management of your concrete, because that is like a little factory on wheels right there. There's so many different variables to control that by the time you've batched something and it's actually been delivered, we really need on our side to be able to see the difference between that batched and delivered. So the more data that we have that's coming in at that ticket level, the better. We tend not to integrate directly with all of these sensing companies where we're getting all of those properties, because when it lives at the ticket level, that's ideal. That's where we want it to be constantly pulled and pushed from, because that's where it's live changing. So if we can get all of that in there, and that's the exciting part about working with Sysdyne as well, is they're making efforts to really bring all of that data in at that ticket level, and that's just going to make that more powerful. Earlier, before, when I mentioned that Roxi often will reject tickets and explain why she's rejected them, it's usually because things have been offset during that in transit time that she goes, hey, hold on, we've seen different things, like when people are going to batch a mix, maybe they ran out of fly ash that day and they go into something straight cement, but they don't say that it's a different mix. Roxy picks that up right away. She goes, nope, you've batched something different than what your mix design was, so I'll show you that data on this plot, but I will not use it for my optimizations. The same goes for anything that's in transit. If all of a sudden we're trimming 40 gallons of water before it goes out, and then we're having to add a different mixture en route, whatever that might be, that's a different mix now, and that data should not be considered in the optimization if it's assuming that add mixture isn't there and that 40 gallons didn't get trimmed. So these are things that the more data that we have, the better it is. The less data we have, there's still things that we can do with it, like predictions, but it'll be limited, and it'll always err on the side of conservative, because if we don't have enough, there will always be safety factors put in place. So in terms of actually working with Giatec and ConcreteGo, or Giatec and Sysdyne, ConcreteGo and SmartMix together. One of the things that is a huge benefit of our partnership that we're really excited about, we recently released that we are in a partnership because we've really taken the time as an organization, or two organizations together, to ensure that we have a set amount of SLAs that we adhere to, so that our customers can have peace of mind that these are things that we've already worked out in the background. We know exactly where that data flow and how that mapping should be. If something breaks, we know exactly where the troubleshooting needs to be. We have consistently looking over people's API documentation and getting those updates. We have designated points of contact within our two organizations, and if something goes wrong, we know exactly where we need to go. There will be no finger pointing coming and working with our two companies, because all of that was worked out in the background, and that's a really exciting thing of working in this. It's always scarier sometimes to work with two companies when they're having to share that data back and forth in order to keep up with the day-to-day, but that's the confirmation that you have from our two companies. Jason, I don't know if you want to share anything from your side as well.
No, I mean, I would just emphasize again that we were preemptive with this. So all of this is done, and we're ready to start changing the world.
I love it. Next stop, changing. First we're here. Next stop, world domination, right?
Changing the world. That's it.
So here's our two companies' websites that you can have a look at for any more information. Like I personally said, I mean, I'm sure Jason, you feel the same way. We talked a little bit high level about what our systems do, but ultimately, if anyone's seriously considering this, getting into the weeds and some meetings is always the better way to do it. But I think we can open it up for questions, unless you wanted to leave any final notes.
No, I think you got it covered.
All right. Well, then let's see what people want to know. Okay. I think we've got Ashley. Did we have some questions that we wanted to know? There were a couple pre-ones that we wanted to get in front of.
Yes, let me see. I was waiting for Jamie to get on. I don't have any questions in front of me now, so I think if there's anything else that you want to cover that you can think of, Jason or Sarah, feel free. If not, then we can follow up if any other questions come in later.
Oh, Ashley, I see a few that just popped up.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, and whichever, Jason or Sarah, whoever wants to answer. There's one here. Can Giatec replace the current QC system we use for submittals?
It definitely, Jason, you can take a stab at that if you want to, but it definitely can. Submittals was, when we came across the fact that there was a need for the centralized data management in that sort of space, what we did was identified kind of the 80-20 rule of what are the main features that people need, or what are the main things that people need if they're going to use this as their database, and submittals was number one. So we have developed that about a year ago, but we continue getting little requests about different customization that needs to be had to keep up with, especially DOT regulations from state to state as we bring on new customers in different areas. But certainly it can be and absolutely should be your submittal generator if you're going to use the system.
Great, thank you. And one last one popped up here. Is Giatec priced separately from Sysdyne? How is it priced?
Yeah, so there are two companies would handle that separately. So if you are interested in learning a little bit about how that pricing model works, the really nice benefit of working with Sysdyne, I will say, is that we do not have to charge extra for any difficult integrations that need to be done, because that was done as a one-time. That is an immediate discount that would come from that, because we've done that work in the background already. So it's an immediate impact on that bottom line for you when you're looking at Giatec SmartMix. But the two systems are absolutely priced out separately, but we do like to work together to be able to bring people the full solution with just the two of us.
Great, thank you so much. So we appreciate everyone's time today. We know you all have very busy schedules, so we appreciate you joining us. And Jason and Sarah, appreciate your time as well. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.